I can't show you. Right here, it's going to decide if it wants to put it there or there. That's how quantizing works, but let's go ahead. I'm hitting record, which is number 3. Okay, and then we're going to hit this snare on the 2 and the 4. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now listen back. Notice it auto-corrected it. Okay, that's what your quantizing does. All right, so let me pull this down a little bit. And the reason that's a great place to start is with your snare when you're learning, is because it you already got this beat. It tends to have a snare there, most likely all the time. But for this lesson, just put the snare on the 2 and 4. Now, as I told you, the first beat I taught you, which is the very basic beat. So when a drummer plays, he plays his kick, which is the foot, okay, which is called the bass drum. Won't go through the history where it came from. And then the snare drum, and that tends to be on the 2 and the 4. And then the hi-hats or the cymbals tend to keep the beat for these basic drum beats. So let me hit record again. So I'm going to put a kick on 1 and 3. Okay, ready? And there's your most basic beat, okay? Now, a decent rule of thumb is do not have kicks on snare beats. So if you had a drum roll here, you would not want it, you'd want the kick to stop playing, okay? They just sound weird. Kicks are accents, okay? They're holding down the solid. And think of these as like everyone clapping. The bass guitar follows this, okay? So if it was country music, it might be like boom, 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 okay, boom, 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 boom. It was something else, all right? Now, let's get the hi-hats. Now, the cymbals. So that's a hi-hat, right? That's a closed hat. Open, that's when they lift their foot off the hi-hat. All right, so we're gonna do a quarter note first to show you what that sounds like. Ready? B. Okay, so make that beat. When you do that, you'll be proud of yourself that you made a beat. Okay, let's erase that. Let's do it again. Now let's add eighth notes to that. See what that sounds like, because that's more likely what somebody would play. 1. Now notice I really messed up that second beat, but it all quantized. That's why I want you to quantize. Later on, you're not going to want to quantize. You're going to want to like kind of quantize and not quantize. It becomes its own art form, so it sounds more like a real drummer. All right, so that can be that. The other thing you can use for the cymbals is you'll use the ride for a different effect, okay? 1 and 2 and 3. Okay? If someone hits a cymbal, it's for an accent. You're not going to use it in a standard beat. For hip hop, dance, and all this stuff, that stuff they don't use cymbal as much. But for other kinds of music, you're going to use it to accent the on beat, usually following a drum roll. So when I hit that cymbal, I'm going to go in my editor and I'm going to get rid of that one because the drummer is not going to hit that. He only has 2 hands. Something you got to remember when you're making drums that are supposed to sound like real drums. Okay, but in today's music, nobody follows any of those rules. All right, so let's do another drum beat just like this and see what happens. So another thing that can happen is we'll use a side stick instead of a snare. We'll do it again. 1, 2, right? That's, yeah. And I have that on the snare, so I'm going to go SN, and we're going to call this kick. Follow me so far? Hopefully it's not taking too long for the YouTube video. All right, now we'll go, we got a kick. Now this time we're going to go 1 and 2, 3, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and you'll start hearing the drums change. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay. Now for the fun of it, let's just add another kick drum, and you can just see how the beat changes. Okay. Got it? Now throw some cymbals on there. Now let's make the cymbal a little bit different. Okay, we'll go. Okay, cymbals tend to be doing kind of things. People get a little fancy later. We'll expand on that. So let's change up this snare. We're going to add a snare to the snare. Let's change it to a snare. I don't want to confuse you with fancy tricks and stuff. Okay. All right. Now let's change up that kick drum. Or let's put a cymbal in there again, and we'll do eighth note cymbal so we can play with that kick drum. Okay. As I said, right there for like a lot of standard old-timey rock beats and stuff like that, that's kind of it. It's just your hi-hat is on either quarters or eighth, your snare is going to be on the 2 and the 4, and then a lot of the switch up when they talk about a different beat has to do with the kick drum. So I'm going to play with this kick and just do all sorts of things, but I'm not going to record it, okay? But like if I go, that's 1, 1, 1, 1, right? So then, and let's say we do 4 on the floor. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. These eighth note kicks are just very basic, okay? It definitely gets a lot more fun when you can get to 16th notes. So you see what I'm saying? Okay, so that's some of your basic stuff. So let's say you want to do this another way. So you got all this, and we're gonna go. All right, so come up here with your hand, double click this. You've already got it quantized, right? And then let's zoom in your editor, which I always have so much trouble dealing with this editor because all right, let me move this stuff around. I have trouble with the editor. I don't know why, but so if you here's your notes, right? So let's just say I want to just play with this and I don't know what I want to do, but I'm going to just start looping this, okay? And I want to hear what these things sound like. So here's your notes, right? Okay, another problem is my quantize on this thing. Notice it's in triplets, so we're going to do eighth notes. So now all your eighth notes are all laid out there. So let's just, oops, screwed that up. Let's just option, click this. I'm going to take this beat and put it like right here. Right? Oh, what does that feel like? What if we went like that? See, it makes a different beat. Now what do we put in there? Right? Now we just keep going. All right, let's say I'm going to delete that one. See what I'm saying? That's how you can kind of make some beats, right? Or you're like, oh, okay, that's cool. I want to get crazy with that hi-hat, so let's just add something else, and you literally can kind of, well, I can't add something, but we're going to delete some of these, okay? Well, see, I pulled that at the tom, but it's just showing you how you can start playing with the drums and edit them. Okay, let's get a little more advanced, but that is some basic stuff, and let's get into the 16th notes because it definitely becomes more like today's music or whatever. So we're on the input quantize, and let's change this over to 16th notes. We can keep that there. Let's slow down the tempo because a lot of hip hop and stuff like that. 120 is more in like the dancey kind of stuff, but let's just start slowing that down to 96 or 98 or whatever for some of that old school stuff. I'm not pretending like I'm making hip hop here, okay? I'm teaching you some of the basics, basics, all right? Now, let's change, we got our snare, I wish it was a clap, but we'll change that to this. And we're gonna do a 2-bar loop here. Let's change our quantize here just so we can see it. And now we're up to 16th notes. We're slower, we hit record, 2, so their tempo's slower, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? All right, now we can have some fun with the kick, okay? And we're just gonna, you drum out like this, boom, 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 and stuff like that. So we're gonna try to come up with something a little more syncopated. We talked about the heart rate and how syncopation, what it does to your heart and why people like that. Okay, so we go like this, we go, and boom, and boom, 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 okay? Now, one thing I know is I'm trying to get that kick drum out of the way of any snares. So I kind of did that. But this is an example of you don't know what you want your beat to sound like. All right, so then you can take this kick and like, I don't want that to land on the second beat because see how it adds some syncopation, just total accidental. Right? It's kind of fun because you got it out of the way of that where your heart expected that beat to be. All right, now let's have some fun with the cymbals. Okay, so like this, I'm just gonna give it just a hi-hat. We're just gonna, oops, I messed that up. And I'm just gonna put one in here, okay? All right, so let's double click this. Man, I got a problem. I wanna explain it later, we'll go. I gotta make sure I have a full measure from which to play with or it gets weird. Let's pull that over there. Like this, hit my hand. The other thing I want to do is I'm on 16th notes. I want to make sure this is not any longer than 16th note for this demonstration. I really, nope, messed it up. Okay, so now I got this thing looping, right? Now we're gonna play with that hi-hat. I'm just gonna move it in random spots. Like literally just random spots to see what it sounds like. Okay, wait, I'm in 8th note, so I'm gonna cut all this out. I gotta get this to 16th notes, so it's not too long. I'm gonna shorten it so it's only a 16th note long. Okay, now we're just gonna take this sucker and just put it in totally random spots to see what it starts developing. Now, there's some I like, some I don't like. It's a way to like discover beats you may not have ever made before. And some of it's weird, like this one there is kind of odd, right? It's just, but something's developing at the end, right? But it seems like I feel like I want one there. Let's say I do 4 of these at the end. It's a bit of kind of a leading into. Okay, just playing. Now if I just keep going on that, what does that exercise start sounding like, right? Okay, now just for the hell of it, let's move some of these. Let's see what. Wait. Okay. That's the open. Now I got a tom there, which I like, but not for this exercise. Okay, and that's how you can make some basic drum beats, and that's it. Now you can mess with the tempo. Wait, where was my tempo? Wait. Okay, if I go up to 120 or something like that, it's gonna take on a different feeling. Okay. And that gets you started on just some basic stuff, all right? And then from there, if that's all you did and you're like, well, that's my beat, I'm gonna bring this back to the 1 and I might duplicate this, all right? So now I have a lot of like basic hip hop usually starts with like these 8-bar loops.